Alright, so next thing, you finish the mallet head. Now we need to open a new document, a new part. We're going to make the mallet handle. Now just like what we made the mallet head, we're going to make a sketch, but we're going to make it, we're not going to make it with a circle and extrude it. We're going to make it with a rectangle and revolve it. Reason for that, when you make it a rectangle, just like we did with the mallet head and revolved it, that allows you to add some designs. And so I don't want just a straight peg for my mallet handle. So what I'm going to do, it needs to probably be at least 6 inches long for it to be correct mallet head. And then if you remember, we made our mallet, in the mallet head we made a hole, and we made that hole, at least I made mine, 0.75. so whatever you made the hole, it doesn't matter, 0.75. But if you're revolving it, that means you want this to be the radius, so we need to divide this by 2. What that'll do is when I actually revolve it around itself, it'll make it 0.75. So 0.75 divided by 2, okay, and that goes ahead and puts that there at a 0.375. Now I want to add some design. Now again, remember this last inch here, so if you look at this square, about that last inch we should leave alone. So that way, that's where we're going to put the threads, that's where the handle is going to go into the mallet head. But everything else is kind of fair game. So I don't want to go too far down. If you go too far down, then there's not going to be much material left to actually be part of the handle. But I can make some different shapes. You know, I can make an arc. I can make more triangles. Okay, so you make all kinds of different shapes, whatever you feel like making. Now, you don't have to most of the time, but every now and then there's issues if you don't trim. So I go ahead and I click this trim button up here, or you can just right click and click on trim. I'm going to trim all those pieces out that aren't going to be part of my mallet handle. Right click, OK. So now when I spin this rectangle, or what used to be a rectangle, around this line, all those pieces are going to spin around it too and make a little bit different of a pattern. So I'm going to revolve it. Again, it's going to say what profile. It didn't really even give me a chance because this is the only profile here, so it automatically selects it. If there's more than one profile, if I had left one of those things cut, left one of those lines there, I would have had to select this because it would have been wondering, do I want this or do I want this? Now what axis? I want it to spin around this. If it spins around this line, all of those features I just made would be on the inside and they wouldn't really show up. So I want to spin it around this way. It does is allow me to have my handle. Okay, now again, this is a kid's toy. I would go through, chamfer these edges. I don't need to worry about this one because that's going to go into the handle. Now you notice it's not doing anything, and that's because this chamfer is too big for how small this handle is. So what I'm going to have to do is, now that I selected all those, see how it's got this little exclamation point here. It's saying you can't chamfer that much. If I chamfered that much, it would go into the structure. So I'm going to set that at 0.125, so about, you know, half of that's, we could just do 0.125. Let's see if divided by 2 works. No. So let's just do 0.06. Okay, those work. It chamfered them. We're good. I'm going to go with that. Now they're a little bit rounded, not quite as sharp. We're good to go. Last thing we're going to do, so I'm going to add thread, which is right here, to the end of the handle. Now I don't need it to thread all the way down because remember my hole was only 0.75 inches deep. So what I'll do here is I don't need it the full length. So I'm going to unselect that. Let's just say how long do you want that to be? Well, 0.75 is my hole. I don't want the threads to go that far down because it'll still stick out a little. So I'm going to do 0.5 on my threads. And I'm going to do it from it's not selecting the right face. Here. Thread this in. And I want it to be 0.5. I'd clicked on down here apparently. I clicked on this line. What that did was it was coming from that way. I wanted to click the side. Now 0.75 is probably a little too long. Like I said, I want this to actually be 0.5. So there we go. All I have to do is double click on that. I can change it. So now I have my handle threaded. Everything's done for my handle. Everything's done for my mallet head.